Live from New York, it's Ask This Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Ask Engineer. It's me, Lady Ada, the engineer, and with me is Mr. Lady Ada. And we're here at the Adafruit factory where we do all of the designing, testing, kitting, manufacturing, and shipping of the lovely electronics and open source hardware that you know and love.
From farm to arm. No.
What? From farm to soldering station.
I said arm because like arm chips or something.
Oh, arm chips, yeah.
Yeah.
We have an exciting show tonight.
We do.
As we always do.
Yeah, it's a big show.
We're on air.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about what's going to be on the show?
Okay, on tonight's show, the code is Murrow. 10% off in the Adafruit store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. 10% off all things except for gift certificates. And Ada Box that supports us, an open source hardware company. All those things that Lady Ada just said, these are the people who do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it.
We're doing it.
Yep. Show and tell people around the world showing and sharing their projects. Lady Ada will go over the cool projects and more. Packed mailbags going to stop by. We have a beautiful voicemail someone left us. Time travel, look back in the world of hackers, makers, artists, engineers, and more. Some made in New York City factory footage. Nimbus, the friendly cloud entity, is going to stop by. 3D printing, new products. We'll answer your questions. We have some top secret stuff. Woo! And we're going to give something away. All that and more on Ask an Engineer.
Yay!
Yeah. Okay, well, as previously mentioned, the code is Murrow. 10% off in the Adafruit store. Use
Cool
it.
stuff.
Use it or lose it. Little programming note, this is Ask an Engineer. Every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Show and tell, we just did it, 7:30. For the folks that are shopping on our site and you happen to be in New York City on checkout before 11 a.m., if you're in a zip code where we have same day, you can do it. Everybody else in the continental U.S., free UPS ground, $200 or more. And for our friends in Canada, I don't think we're at war with Canada yet. Free, not free, but we have DHL shipping finally for Canada.
And it's well priced.
Yeah.
And it goes through customs well.
Yeah.
It is a preferred method.
Yep.
And means that we can do more stuff with Canada.
Yeah, we're gonna
Our friends in the north.
For the folks who ask, we're gonna have Ada boxes eventually.
But are we gonna have Ada boxes to Canada?
Yeah.
Could we do that now?
Eventually.
Could we do it before?
No.
Now we can.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good questions.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Moving right along.
Show and tell, our favorite half an hour. Every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
What was on the show and tell?
I am glad that you asked. I have a list of all the people who showed up, and I'm going to say who they are. We had a bunch of familiar favorites. Start off with Scott, who is working on Circuit Playground and Circuit Python. We have the last revision of Circuit Playground Rev G out to developers, hackers, and makers. We're going to be releasing it soon. It's the Circuit Playground Express. It can run Circuit Python, which is our version of Python that runs on a microcontroller for beginners. Mm-hmm. He's working on clock debugging. We found some clock bugs and audio, so that's really good. JP previewed a project he's going to be releasing very, very soon. It's a LoRa Feather remote control box for circus or theatrics. Basically, if you have to remote control something from far away or in a noisy environment, you can't necessarily use Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. That's often the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum is often really bad for when you want reliability, especially in a busy theater house where everybody's got their phones on. So he's using LoRa, and he made a really cool 3D printed remote control box, and he showed it off, and it's coming soon, so check that out. Tony D did a video last week for the Microbit BBC. It's the new British Broadcasting Corporation designed educational electronic platform. They gave away 700,000 of them to all these kids in England, and now they're available in the US, so we've been selling them. You can pick one up, and he showed how to use MicroPython with it. You can use MicroPython or MicroBit, MicroPython the Microbit, or you can use MakeCode, which is PXT. You can also use a couple different programming systems. But
we have a ton of Microbit projects coming out soon too.
Oh, yeah.
So watch Tony's videos.
For more.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, our special guest, Chris Young, made an iPad holder to help him sleep. It's 3D printed. He learned a lot about threads and how to set temperatures. Yeah. It's a pad stand. It's kind of neat. It folds up. It can screw down. And non sequitur, he made some 3D printed eggs for Easter.
Yeah,
cool swirly eggs.
I think today's Alien Day. Uh-huh. And he had one that looked like an alien that then the face hugger comes
Yeah,
out and gets
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, but it was neat because you could see all the different iterations of 3D printed Easter eggs. It was cool.
Eggs. Orlando gave us an update about the hospital mood badge. These are mood badges that kids can hang on their hospital bed so they can tell people what their mood is, like, basically do not disturb or feeling good, come on by. A good way to communicate with people in the hallway without having to expend the energy to tell people how you feel. Especially if you're not energetic, it can be really tough to tell people, hey, now's not the right time. So that's cool. And what's really neat, so he sent the boards off to Osh Park. He's getting them back, and he asked all the kids what color they wanted for the Matrix. So everyone gets their own color that they want. They decided blue. So he's going to make one in red for him, blue for everybody else. And then Adam and the the exciting scanning electron microscope.
Well, depending on how you feel about electrons, they are perhaps coming in and out of existence. So the electrons could be globetrotting.
It's like a tail. He's spinning a tail of this electron microscope. It's been like 8 or 9 weeks in a row.
Yeah, this is, like I said, when it's finished, I want to do a supercut of the progress because he's done so much neat work.
It's so cool.
This week was capacitor.
This week's topic was capacitor. He turned it on. He actually got some signal. He got some signal coming out. He was able to scan an item. He blew a gasket. Not like emotionally. He actually literally blew a gasket on his positioning platform. So he's going to replace that gasket. And then he blew a fuse. And then he turns out his power supply is probably blowing up caps because it smells like broken capacitors. It's not unlike, it's very reasonable for that to happen. Any device that's more than 20 years old, the capacitors, even if you use really good ones, they dry out. The electrolytic film inside can basically act as a short, especially as you power it up. The more you power it up, it starts to break down, and you can get shorts. And so he probably has to go through and replace every electrolytic capacitor, which is not fun, but is a pretty common thing when replacing or repairing old electronic devices. And
and we take apart stuff. Sometimes we have to replace caps and all that.
When when I left MIT, somebody gave me their function generator, and it used tantalum caps. And I turned it on, and one blew, and I replaced it, and another one blew, and then I just realized every single one of them was going to blow one after the other.
Yeah.
Just as you turn it on. So each one took 1/10 of a second, one took 2/10
Does it pop
of a
or does
second.
it hiss?
Oh, it pops.
They pop.
It goes pop, and then
They don't leak. They're just like.
No, I mean electrolytes can sometimes leak, but if they're dried out, they don't. Electrolytes leak if you put them in backwards or if you put way too much voltage on them. Tantalums just go up in flames. They actually will start flaming if you put them in backwards. Very tricky. Anyways, he's going to get some capacitors, and we're going to check up next week and see how it's going.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get some more image. We got some electron scanning images, though. Very nice. It was gear, little things. It's
All
cool.
participants on the show and tell get a seen on show and tell sticker or something else fun that we want to send them. So check out our site and more for instructions on how to get on the show and tell every single week. That's part of our Adafruit series of live videos. As Lady Ada said last week, Tony D had a cool video of the microbit, so you can see all the cool projects that you can do microbit using a web page, using kind of the online version of Moo because that's what it's based on. Doing quick projects, doing a block editor.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, there's a microbit it's kind of neat because as we're working on Circuit Playground, we see them as complementary. The microbit might be good for real beginners. It's kind of minimal. It's going to be a lot less expensive for people. Maybe they're going to get it as part of their school curriculum. But then as they want to do more projects, I see the things that the Circuit Playground can do and the things that the microbit can do, they don't interact that much. There's not that much overlap. So if you want to do a project with NeoPixel LEDs, Circuit Playground's going to be where you want to go. If you want to have sound input or output, you're going to go with a Circuit Playground. If you want to have a grid of LEDs or you want a radio, you go with a microbit.
Yeah,
so
we go project-based.
Yeah,
it's like what type of project you want to do. And if you're a beginner, here's a good board to pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, big news. Everyone's going to be happy about this. New Collin's lab. Woo! Here you go.
Like most people, after a long day, all I want to do is kick back, relax, and listen to the sound of my own heartbeat. but sometimes I just want to jazz it up a bit. You know? Totally. So, in order to sufficiently jazz it up a bit, I will use my pulse to control the light of 4 LED strips. These are 5 meters long apiece with 30 LEDs per meter. I figure 600 LEDs strewn about my living room should be enough visual accompaniment. In the audio department, I will trigger a sound sample to play back at each heartbeat and run that through my stereo. I think altogether, that should be enough. This little pulse sensor will detect changing levels of oxygen in my blood and send them as an analog signal over to this Feather M0 microcontroller board. At each heartbeat, the code running on my Feather will output a PWM signal, which I'll use to control the LED strips. To generate sound, I'll attach this Feather music wing, which will be triggered by the Feather M0 to play an audio sample stored on an SD card at each heartbeat. I'll use the Feather's prototyping area to add a terminal block for connecting ground and PWM signals to the LED strips. And I'll also add a small slide switch, which will allow me to keep the lights and sound turned off until I have a steady pulse detected by the Feather. Once the Feather is programmed, I can move on to making the driver boards for the LED strips. The Feather's PWM signal is far too weak to power one of these LED strips alone, so we'll need a sensitive transistor like this N-channel MOSFET, which will allow the small 3.3 volt PWM signal to quickly switch the LED strip's 12 volt power on and off and create a fading effect. I'll mount the MOSFET on a quarter-size proto board along with a terminal block, DC jack, and 10K pull-down resistor for the MOSFET's gate pin. It's important to keep in mind that MOSFETs are sensitive creatures and can be damaged when the gate pin is left disconnected or floating. So I'll make sure that the Feather is connected before applying power to the driver board. I'll only be using the red channel of the RGB LED strips, so one of these boards will be able to power 2 strips simultaneously. I'll be using 4 strips total, so I made 2 boards. And of course, to connect everything, I will need a whole lot of wire. Alright, so let's go wire it up. Cross your fingers. Throw salt over your shoulder, knock on wood. Okay, the lights are installed, and now all we have to do is hook up the audio to the stereo, and put on the pulse sensor. Once we've got a steady pulse being displayed on the feather's built-in LED. Then we're ready to go. Computer, turn lights off. That's a little more evil disco than I was planning on. Brings some new meaning to the term living room, but I could get down with it. Yep, that'll do.
That was Collin's lab. Next up,
As if you couldn't tell.
yeah, back to the mailbag. So we've been doing this cool thing where there are voice messages that people can leave a message for us. So I'm going to talk about that. When we're not around, you can call ownbitstab and leave a nice message. If you mean message, we're just going to delete it and block your phone number or
Don't do that.
give it to someone
We're
else.
humans.
Yeah,
We like nice messages.
well, some of us are. So
I'm
here's
human.
here's a nice one that came in.
Hello, this is Jackie and Stacy from Cambridge, Massachusetts. The Adafruit voicemail song. You sing a ling sing. The Adafruit voicemail song.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Time travel. Look back in the world of hackers, makers, artists, engineers, and more. All right. First up, all sorts of celebrations.
Who's this person?
Ready?
I want to find out.
1874, Marconi. Happy
Oh.
birthday. Inventor, Marconi's Law. Won a Nobel Prize.
Good batteries. I think
Yeah.
he did dynamos and stuff too.
1953. That's when we pretty much started calling things DNA.
Okay.
Yeah, not bad.
work.
Deoxyribose nucleic acid.
Where's Rosalind Picard?
Next up, it's a big week. 1954, first practical solar cells demonstrated by Bell Labs.
That's cool.
1954, I was home from vacation from college to visit my parents. That night, my father, Calvin Southern Fuller, came home with something that looked like a quarter with wires sticking out. The device was connected to a small electric windmill that stood on the table. He shined a bright light on the flashlight with the quarter-like object, and it was a little tiny cell.
Well, that's cool. Start
Yeah.
turning. Neat. Yeah, I guess they just tried like, hey, what happens if we make a really, really big diode?
Yeah. Next up, 1961, Robert Noyce granted a patent for the integrated circuit.
Noise.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. All right.
And then he went on to found Intel now. Where did Noyce work?
I thought AT&T for some reason.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But I remember there was also something about the patent with the transistor, not the integrated circuit, where they said everyone can license it freely, and that's kind of what.
That was Bell Labs.
Yeah.
And that was, oh man, what's his name? I went to a museum thing about him.
Yeah.
Transistor. Well, there's a couple inventors of the transistor.
Yeah. Okay.
Couple people helped out. All right, integrated circuit, pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so then, I mean, that's like,
Big week.
Solar, this, a lot of people doing depositions.
Yeah. So that's some of our time travel this week. But there was other things that have been going on, Lady Ada.
What's going on?
Well, so you visited the White House last year around this time.
Yeah.
And there used to be a record of that, but it's all
Nope.
deleted and all gone. But
Gone.
there's a website that got all this, and I got copies. So here's a screenshot. You went to the White House, and your host was.
I didn't go there in March.
Barack
That was a
Obama.
thing that didn't, that didn't
Yeah.
happen.
I was there. So anyways, it's neat because this is data.
Yeah, this was the Nation of Makers. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
And no, we're going to get to Nation of Makers later. But it's cool because the visitor logs used to be available. Mm-hmm. That's cool. They're not now. They used to be.
Maybe they will be one day again.
Yeah. And our code is Murrow. And the reason is happy birthday, Edward R. Murrow. Mm-hmm. Fantastic journalist. One of my heroes. And someone who really sought the truth. We have a little post about Edward Murrow. And a lot of it is about like transparency in government and getting the truth and all that. So I thought it was neat when we got to see your logs.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Okay. Log it up.
Yeah. And that was for Nation of Makers.
People can't take that away. I mean, they can take away the logs, but
Yeah.
they can't take away that we were there.
So you were there for Nation of Makers, and Nation of Makers site just launched. And we were on a cool conference call.
That was last night.
Yeah. And what's cool is it's
It's happening.
yeah, it's an independent organization that's not connected to any company, not any government, and they're going to do National Week of Making. And
Yes.
that's June 16th to June 22nd. So, we have some news.
Do you do this?
Yeah. How about you read some of these?
Okay, I'll read these. Okay, the 2017 National Week of Making, to be held June 16th through 22nd, 2017, celebrates the ingenuity and diversity of the American maker community. All of you viewers, you makers, you hackers, good crackers, to have a successful week of making, we need your participation. And here's how you can get involved. Events and activities. We can organize events or activities in the communities. If you can have an open house or a maker summit or a maker town hall, maker meal, workshop, showcase, fundraiser during the Week of Making, and let everyone else know by creating an entry on the Week of Making page at nationofmakers.org. Click events. Likewise, if you're interested in making, go to the events tab and visit one of the events.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be, like, how many maker spaces are there in the U.S.? Like
Thousands.
500, thousands. Visit them, hang out, go to an event. Maybe there'll be mini maker fairs going on. Exciting stuff. Maker profiles. Send us profiles of amazing makers, maker educators, or community
Not us,
leaders.
Nation of Makers.
Yeah, not us. Sorry. Send Nation of Makers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can send it to us too.
National Week of Making.
But for the National Week of Making, send it to nationofmakers.org. Click Maker Profiles and submit profiles. You can even submit a profile of yourself. Don't be shy.
Let me just say something. I really like that because you got a Champion of Change award from the White House, and that got removed, completely deleted, gone, forever gone. And it'd be nice to have the makers we're celebrating not on a website that maybe changes every 4 years.
That sucks.
It'd be nice if it was an independent organization. I really like this.
Yes, this is independent. So that's kind of cool.
Good work, Nation of Makers
Nice work.
and National Week of Making.
They'll feature a selection of them. So please submit them. You have a favorite maker. Maybe your favorite maker is yourself. Maybe it's your mom. You know, she makes wonderful quilts. Submit her profile.
Everyone's a maker.
Maybe it's your grandmother who worked at Intel
Yeah.
and made silicon solar cells. Who knows?
Yeah.
Submit them. Photos. Send Nation of Makers photos from your makerspace, workshops, projects, and events so they can be featured on nationofmakers.org. Include a description of the photo and event and provide photo credit. Use the attached example of the guide. Well, go to Nation of Makers and then you can see how to submit it. You send an email with a subject line. Blog posts. You can create blog posts to celebrate makers in the community or your agency. Nation of Makers board member Stephanie Santoso, she's awesome, curates the Medium publication called Nation of Makers at medium.com/a-nation-of-makers and would love to have you and others who might be interested author articles. You a blogger, you're a writer, everyone's got something to say. Email info@nationofmakers.us with the subject line blog post and tell them you would like to submit a blog post. Tell them your story, tell somebody else's story. Talk about your awesome makerspace. What's the coolest thing that's happened there? Send it along. And then commitments. This is kind of a broad thing. You know, your company, your organization, your agency, your makerspace. Maybe you want to make a commitment. And the commitment will start Maker Fair. Maybe you're going to do a year-long gallery of art, or you want to have a weekly blog post where you celebrate things, or maybe you want to start a competition or give away prizes. They want to hear commitments from companies, or maybe you want to start a makerspace. That's your commitment. It would be really good if you're going to do it around that time. You can commit during that week, and it'll kind of make everybody feel like they're doing it together. I found that it does help when people commit together.
There's a week we're all
they
going to do this.
succeed together.
Yeah. At Adafruit, we gave all our employees paid time off for charity. So some of these organizations are 501(c)(3)s. If they're in our area, some of our team is probably going to do stuff.
Seeing that other people are doing stuff will get other people excited. Yeah. So even if your commitment isn't a big deal, maybe you're like, oh, my school has a makerspace, and we're going to clean it up and maybe publish some projects. That's all you got to do. Just show that you're part of this community. You're a maker, and this is it's for everybody. It's a nation of makers. It's
Yeah.
for every kind of maker there is, whether it's a photo club or an electronics club or 3D printing
do stuff
group.
with assistive technology. They always need technologists and makers for disaster and relief. Any type of social good. This
Maybe
is where,
your 4-H club is doing something.
Yeah, 4-H has always been makers.
They're always making. Maybe
Yeah.
who knows what you're doing.
Okay.
You're alone, you're in a group, it's your family, it's your space, it's your school, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's your church. We had some really cool church projects last week.
Yeah.
Check out nationofmakers.org
Yeah.
and nationofmakers.us.
Yeah.
Check it out now, and you have 2 months to get ready.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention is the executive director, Dorothy, just did a talk at on Earth Day at the Science March, and we have some footage of that. And this is really neat. Dorothy's an amazing speaker, so if you need to get fired up and ready to go for making stuff, this is the thing to watch. And I did a time-coded post on our site. So if you're looking for the message, here it is.
Oh, I've heard Dorothy. I want to see Dorothy.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Jones Davis, and I'm the proud executive director of Nation of Makers. As humans, we are born curious. We are built to explore, to hack the world around us in an attempt to understand it. It is in our very DNA to try to use science to improve our lives, to help one another, to make each generation better than the one before it. From birth, a spark is born within us that calls us to be makers, doers, agents of change. And science, engineering, and art, they are the medium by which we make sense of this amazing world we live in. They are the medium by which we elicit this change. They allow us to observe, record, analyze, ideate, innovate, iterate, improve our world, and communicate the power of our creations. But without that medium, we are drained of our spark. So how do we set fire to our spark? How do we create a true nation of makers, doers, agents of change? We start by prioritizing funding for hands-on STEM experiences for our youth, by supporting the arts and creative thinking as a key component to inventing our futures. And by prioritizing funding for research that will lead to the cures, the future technologies that will impact our world for years to come. And the cautionary tale is this, that if you do not prioritize these things, if you believe that the road to a prosperous future for America and the human race is paved without a foundation of science, technology, engineering, arts, and the math, you will find yourself with no road at all. If humanity runs out of its spark, if innovation is impossible, and if people are unable to conceive of solutions to sustain ourselves, our culture and our earth will be lost. There will be no road to the future. So let us stand today as members of the human race, a nation of scientists, innovators, and makers in solidarity to prioritize our future. Let us say yes to science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Yes to federal funding and innovation on this Earth Day. Yes to the Earth, and yes to a brighter future. Thank you.
Woo! So everybody go out there and make something. Okay, so moving right along, we are an open source hardware company. These are some open source certification logos for the people who do that. It's also the new logo for the open source hardware effort. Here are some learning guides from us, an open source hardware company. What was this week, Lady Ada?
Okay, this week, well, I guess K10 made a guy. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
He made an LPC
He's sneaky.
824 new pixel IR distance sensor. Sounds like it's... That's kind of cool. Oh, you know, he wanted to do some low-level LPC 824. He loves the LPC Cortex M0 line, M0 Plus line. So if you're interested in low-level LPC stuff, check this out. Looks like he built a fun little distance meter with a ring, maybe tells you how far away you are, using timers and stuff. It's a little off the path of what we normally do. We usually do Arduino things, but I kind of like that he's just like, I'm just going to go off and I'm going to do like LPC stuff, low-level stuff. We've got the Circuit Playground Bike Light project. This is from Carter Nelson. It's what I like is actually it's kind of a simple a NeoPixel project. It's just how to turn the circuit playground into a bike light. You can have it flash LEDs, and you can have it be all like red. You can have it be LED swirly colors. Customize your bike. He's got a cute little folding bike there, and it talks about how NeoPixels are set, how to set the colors, hexadecimal, how it works. So it's a great little guide from Carter. And then we also had a special guest post from Scott McCulley. It's a Nerf gun. So this is an automatic Nerf gun that he adds NeoPixels and like automatic refiring. So it turns into like a pretty intense weapon there. And he has a cool animation of his son actually wanted it, and he built it for his son. And of course, the first thing the son does is turn against the hand that makes the Nerf gun and blasts him. So it's
That's why you have to be careful with AI.
you got to be careful with small
If
children.
your kids do it, your AI system
Your
will do it.
robot's going to do it. So a really good detailed guide about how to modify a Nerf gun, how to automate it. I think he used a trinket, how to add LEDs.
Yeah.
And he even had sound effects.
And here's just a little video from the bike light project.
Yeah, it's cute. I mean, this is kind of the demo that, one of the demos, he shows like 5 or 6 different demos, from like a swirling light like this to like pulsing and flashing. I like it because it's useful.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people need a bike light. It's fun. You could program it to do different modes. But it's also a really good way to learn about color theory and how red, green, and blue mix to make different color effects and how to swirl through the colors.
Yeah. Other kind of big news, I think, especially for an open source hardware company, but also for you, a pioneering woman in technology and more. There's a new book out, and it's called The Female Lead. And if you look really close, there's a couple people with red or pink hair, and you're one of them. You're one of 60 women. If you can hand me the iPad here. I just wanted to read off some of the names. So this was interesting. Lady Ada and I went to the photo studio for this. And this was a few years ago. And the interview with you, it's when Adafruit was 50 people. We're 130 now. But there's people in here, Christina Mapur,
Meryl Streep. That's cool.
and a lot of women you've probably never heard of.
Laureen Jobs.
Yeah, oh,
Samantha
Tabby's in
Power,
here.
Lena Dunham. Carly Kloss.
Yeah.
Tracy Edwards. That's cool.
So the cool thing is, it's available now on Kindle, and we have a copy. And there's these neat quotes in it. I like this one. In times of crisis, very often I see women taking the lead, taking the helm. It's been you.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And
Well, there's somebody called Lady Barbara Judge. She's a lady, and her name is Judge.
And about the book, 60 inspirational women from many walks of life all have changed the world in a variety of fields. Among them, there are politicians, artists, journalists, teachers, engineers, campaigners, firefighters, and film stars. And you have a section.
Cool.
Yeah, you did a nice interview. And one of the really neat things about the interview is they drew some of your kits.
Yeah, it's a Mindy Boost kit I
Yeah.
brought.
And really nice photo they took of you. And on the website, they have an interview. And we have it.
Okay.
It's going to be you interviewing you tonight.
Oh, jeez.
Inception. Ask an Inception.
This is Adafruit Pink. This is my color. I've always kind of liked having like a lip ring and jewelry, and my hair is a little bit unusual. And you know what? I think the best part is when I meet young girls and they say, I want to be able to look like that and have a job. I don't want to have to wear a suit every day. I'm like, if you're an engineer, you can look however you want. That's one of the best parts of being an engineer and being a business owner. When you study engineering at MIT, you're learning a lot of science and algebra, and you're doing a lot of like the math behind engineering, but you don't actually get to build anything with your hands because you're doing so much theory. And so after I graduated, I thought, well, I'd like to do more with my hands. I want to build more. I want to be more creative with electronics. And so I started building my own projects. Like I made my own MP3 player, for example. And it was really fun because I didn't want to buy an iPod. I just wanted to build my own. And after I did that, I put up instructions online on how to build your own MP3 player, and you can put it into a mint tin after you're done. And it became a really popular project, and people shared it online. And a lot of people emailed me and said, I'd like to build my own mint tin MP3 player. Can you sell me a kit, a pack of parts, so that I can follow along at home and build this myself without going to like 50 different stores to buy one thing? And that's actually kind of how Adafruit started. Right now we have 40,000 square feet in Soho, Manhattan, and we have 85 employees full-time. We have 850 tutorials on our learning system, And these tutorials basically teach you how to do everything from the most basic skills on how to cut wire and solder two things together, all the way up to, making your own Halloween costume with wings that flap and, fire-breathing masks and, your own synthesizers, your own computer, like everything in between, so that people can pick and choose what projects are most inspiring to them, and then they can follow along and learn more advanced skills as they gain experience. I think that we are absolutely changing things. Historically, a lot of the STEM fields, such as biology, were not mostly women, they were mostly men, but that has been changed. And I think that what we do on a day-to-day basis can affect the current generation and future generations. We had one parent contact us and said, my daughter actually asked me if there were any boy engineers because the only engineers she's seen on your show have been women. And so I was like, yes, like we've totally brainwashed this girl, and that's awesome. We are showing people that engineering isn't just the physics of how a transistor works. It's using the technology and being creative with it and solving problems that people have, or creating something beautiful with it. And I think that's opening up engineering to like a whole new group of people that maybe would never have thought that engineering was for them.
Let's talking about all this engineering, more showing the engineering. Here is a fun video. Board loader. Scenes from the Adafruit factory, but there's more. And that's all just a few feet from Lady A's desk. Maybe you can help out with this video. So this is a rework, I think, or they're
making a tester.
Yeah, sorry.
And this is a really weird tester where we actually bridge some pads together. I don't remember exactly why, but it's just like one of the weird things. So we actually end up connecting the pins together to complete the test procedure. I don't remember exactly why though, but I've built like hundreds of testers, so I'm sure there's a good reason for it. Either way, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So we post up these videos every week on our different channels, and then this is just one of the chains and gears inside of our reflow oven.
It's just gearing away.
It's just soothing.
Yeah. Just a minute to machine picks.
Yeah. I got more stuff. Stuff going into the oven. And stuff coming out of the oven. Hello. All right, next up. We have some Adafruit IO news. Lady Ada, Nimbus, the friendly cloud entities here. The cloud entity doesn't want to put a camera on a device in your bedroom that looks at your clothing and... Oh wait, that was the Echo Look.
Yeah.
And then Nimbus...
That's kind of weird.
Nimbus knows a friend who makes those.
Yeah.
But anyways, Nimbus is the friendly cloud entity.
Yeah,
and,
not the awkward entity.
No. So Adafruit IOs are service makers. You can make your own Internet of Things devices. We have an Internet of Things Bill of Rights, but we also have an Adafruit IO update. Beep, 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 beep. We're growing. So, big news. Last time we did a State of IO on April 5th, we had 78 million inserts of log data. Now we have 81 million. 25,000 users last time, 26,000 users last time. Feeds, 21 last time. This time, 22,000. We got a lot going on.
Yep, more inserts
Tick,
per
tick, tick,
second.
tick, tick, tick.
132 inserts per second
Yeah.
via MQTT. Same for us. So a lot more MQTT users, which is expected.
And don't forget, we have the Internet of Things Bill of Rights. Please contribute to it, because how you use your data online with all these services and devices matters to us, should matter to you too. You can do pull requests and updates on GitHub. Okay, 3D printing. Beep, 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 beep. Sounds like my news thing.
We have a fun new project. Actually,
Yeah.
it's not 3D printing this week, it's CNC milling.
CNC milling, Noah and Pedro made one of the cutest little projects ever. And we're going to show that right now.
This is the Joy Bonnet from Adafruit. It's designed to fit on top of a Raspberry Pi Zero, so you can make some really cool RetroPie projects. This week we designed a case to make a classic looking game controller. In this video, we'll take a look at the build process and learn how to CNC the case using the OtherMill Pro. I started by modeling the components in Fusion 360 so that I could design the case around the electronics. Then I used CAM tools to set up the toolpaths needed for telling the CNC machine how to cut the design. I made sure to simulate each operation to avoid any collisions and limited the step downs to minimize the risk of tool breakage. Once that's done, I processed the G-code and got ready for milling. I'm using the OtherMill Pro, which is a really nice desktop CNC. It's compact and fully enclosed, so I can mill right on my desk without having to worry about dust flying all over the place. To get my stock ready for milling, I need to cut my material so that it can fit within the build volume. I used a tabletop jigsaw to cut pieces from a large stock of wood. Using the rip fence, I was able to measure and cut pieces and get straight cuts. I needed to sand the edges down to get a flat surface. I think it's a good idea to cut extra pieces so that we can have them ready for future projects. It's really important to make sure the surface is nice and level, to make sure you can lay it flat on a table and press down on the corners to see if it's rocking. I'm using Nitto tape to secure the material to the spoil board. This is a double-sided tape that has strong adhesion, so it'll keep our stock fixed to the bed. I only need a few strips, and I need to make sure that they're not overlapping. The spoil board on the OtherMill Pro is made from aluminum, and it's actually faced on the machine itself, so it's nice and level. To get proper alignment, we need to secure the material to the lower left corner of the spoil board. I'm using 1/8 inch flat-end mill to run the first operation. This is called facing. It's basically removing material to get our desired thickness. At first I was milling from both sides, but this leaves behind really thin strips of material. They're pretty easy to remove, but later I found out how to prevent this. If we tell the operation to cut from only one direction, we can get really clean cuts. It's also cutting along the wood grain, so it's less aggressive and leaves a nice surface. The next operation is adaptive clearing. This is similar to facing, but it generates a toolpath that follows this shape. This clears the material with sequential step downs. This operation takes the longest because it's removing most of the material. Next is a contour. It basically cuts the outline of the case by following a single path over and over again. Once that's done, I needed to switch the tool out for a 1/16 inch flat-end mill. I used a pocket operation to create the cutouts for the buttons. This makes concentric patterns and stepovers to clear out the selected geometry. For the last operation, I used a 1/32 inch flat-end mill to make another pocket. Here I'm using it to drill out the mounting holes in the corner standoffs. Once that was all done, I used a putty knife to remove the part. It's a little rough around the edges, but it's really easy to clean up. Using 320 grit sandpaper, I knocked down those burrs and got really smooth and crisp edges. I used a filing tool to get in between the nooks and crannies, and with enough sanding you can really get nice surfaces and clean edges. I wanted this piece to really pop, so I played with some wood stain to get more of a dark color. I found it pretty easy to apply using an old rag and made sure to wear gloves to avoid the mess. Personally, I don't like how it turned out, so instead I milled the parts in different types of wood. Here I have some walnut, oak, and maple. These all have a different look and feel, so I'm pretty happy that I tried them all out. For the buttons, I wanted to try out some cherry wood. I think this gives the case some color separation. Again, I'm using Nitto tape to secure the stock to the bed of the OtherMill. This was a lot easier to set up since the buttons are pretty simple. I faced the stock and used 2 contour operations to cut out the buttons. I used a 1/8 inch bit for the inner contour and a 1/16 inch for the final cutout. They were pretty easy to remove from the spoil board. I just used my fingers because they're actually pretty small. I also milled out the buttons out of acrylic, but that actually didn't work out too well because the acrylic wasn't thick enough to actuate the buttons. So here's our parts looking all nice and crispy. Now we can move on to assembling the Raspberry Pi Zero. All we need to do is solder the male headers onto the Pi's GPIO. I actually used a 3D printed jig to hold the headers on the Pi. This helps make the headers nice and straight while we solder each pin. Once the male headers are fixed in place, we can secure the jig to a pan of ice. You'll have to solder each pin from the bottom of the Pi. Once that's done, we can move on to the rest of the assembly, which is probably the easiest part of the build. I had to shorten the header pins, so I used a pair of flush cutters to cut the pins in half. I just had to be careful not to cut them too short and keep them about the same height. With that done, we can install the Pi into the bottom half of the case, then position the board so that the mounting holes line up with the standoffs. I used M25 screws to secure the board to the case. These are pretty short screws, they're about 5mm long. Next, I placed all of the wooden buttons into the cutouts on the top of the case. Now we can grab the joy bonnet and install it by laying it face down. Line up the mounting holes with the standoffs and fasten machine screws. And with our two halves now assembled, we can bring them together to finish this project. We just need to make sure that the pins are going into the female headers, then just firmly press them together. And that's it, now we have a pretty sweet looking game controller. This was a lot of fun putting together and I learned a lot about CNC milling. This is the first enclosure that I've fully CNC'd, so there was a good amount of trial and error that I didn't cover in this video, but hopefully this inspires you to make your own. Even if you don't have a CNC mill, the parts can be 3D printed. And if you don't have a 3D printer, you can have somebody print them for you. You can check out 3dhubs.com. Hey, if you like this project, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching and make sure you subscribe to the Adafruit channel for new DIY projects every week.
Okay, that project is so sugary cute. I want to like watch the news or
It smells good too.
have to like eat celery because it's so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to show
Cherry wood.
over the overhead
Smells like
real quick?
cherries.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Hold on. Products out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so cute. So yeah, this is just a 2-part CNC machine, but I like it. It's super soft. They sanded it, and it's got different woods. It's kind of like a soft
Yeah, it's
wood,
cool.
and this is a harder wood. And then you get all the joystick love. I mean, you don't need to make a case for it, but it is really cute to have a case.
Yeah.
And then you just connect HDMI and your power, and you're ready to game. You can game like this, or you can hold it like
All right.
this. Beep, 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 beep.
Okay.
Fun times.
Next up, we have a time lapse. Boom. And don't forget, every
That's so cute.
Wednesday, 3D Hangouts with Noah and Pedro. They'll be returning next week. Lead Ada, before we go on to new products, I gotta say the code. Code's Maria. 10% off an Adafruit all the way up till 11:59 p.m. Each time, stuff gift certificates, data box. Whew. One breath. Okay, let's do this. Ready?
Yes.
Go for it.
New, 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 new. New, 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 new. New, 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 new. New, new, new.
Okay, here we go. Let's do
Okay. This is the Switches Stop Snitches edition.
this. Yeah.
You really like these switchable
Yeah.
cables. This is a funky device. This is a special USB extension cable that's not very long, but it has a switch in the middle. And that switch allows you to turn it from a data cable to a charge cable.
Why would you ever want to do that?
That's a good question. There's actually a lot of times that people want to do it.
I want to
One,
do it all the time.
well, there's two major cases where you want to do it. Well, 2.5. First, most common case is you have a tablet or a phone that when you plug it into your computer to charge, it goes into like some weird ass sync mode, and it's like, the donk, I'm not going to do any charging, and like now you have to use me as a disk drive, and like you can't use it because it thinks it's like attached to your computer, and then you don't want to charge it. It thinks like I'm going to now act like a weird device. Like my Kindle does it, my tablet does it. It drives me crazy because I'm like, no, I really just want to charge it, and then like maybe use it, but it's like just low on battery. So what this allows you to do, and you can use this with iOS devices, which is nice because it's just an extension. You plug your lightning cable in or whatever, your mini or micro USB, and
Yeah.
then if you want to use it as a drive or you sync, you put it on data mode. If you just want to charge it, you put it on charge mode. just set the switch before you plug it in. The computer gets a little confused.
Computers
sometimes.
hate this.
The computers don't like it if you disconnect the data lines about the power lines.
Yeah.
It's nothing bad is
I'll
going
tell
to
you why I
happen.
like this. Because sometimes you
Yeah.
plug something in, and it's like, oh, I see you're a hard drive, and I want to charge you, and I'm going to
it's
install.
gonna
I see you should
updates.
have. I see you should have firmware. I'm going to take away features. I just want to charge it.
You just want to charge it, and this way you can make sure you can basically be sure to charge your thing, or you have a gameplay. Like I have a PSP, and when I charge it in, it's like I'm going to back up your games, and I'm like, no, I just want to play it while plugged in.
Just auto run stuff on Windows. You don't want that.
Don't want that.
Everything should have switches.
So that's the number one case. The second case is you're at DEF CON or Hope, and you want to charge your phone, but you're very suspicious of pretty much everything around you, and you want to make sure that by plugging in your device, you aren't accidentally sending data. So it's kind of like a USB condom, they call it,
Yeah.
they call it. It makes sure that there's no risk of any data leaving your device, especially if you have a device with sensitive information. You're at an airport, there's a free charging station, but who knows how they
Scary.
make money. So you make sure there's no way for it to sync. It's definitely only charging your device. And it disconnects both data lines.
We have more.
We have more. So the next cable is pretty similar. This one, instead of an extension cable, it's an all-in-one cable. It's a full micro USB cable, and same deal, except it's not an extension. So you have one of each. For most devices, you'll probably just grab this, because what's nice about it is you can use it as a micro USB cable, change it to charger mode whenever you want to charge, data mode when you want to do both. They're totally good to go. But if you're using it with iOS devices or something with a weird charging cable, then yes, of course, the extension. Or you want to use it with multiple different cables, or really long cables, really short cables. You get the extension. So there's two of them. Maybe I can show them on the.
Any
overhead.
drivers needed for these cables?
You don't need nothing.
Okay.
It's just a switch inside. I actually opened this up on Desk of Lady Ada. Inside of here is just, this is literally connected to a switch, and the switch just mechanically opens and closes the connection for the data line. It's a double pole switch. So there's two switches, and it connects and disconnects mechanically the data minus and data plus lines. So there's no data leakage possible. It
Yeah,
completely
if you're a
disconnects them.
security professional, get one of these, crack it open, make sure it's really switching.
You verify it.
And then now you have something that's really helpful.
Yeah, but this is, and then the third case is for me, because I sometimes have to do debugging of bootloaders and runtime, and is it connected to the computer or not? So debugging this USB sync clock. And so having the data line sending data, actually, I sometimes want to stop it. So I was using this to basically turn on and off the data line, so to make sure that the computer wasn't synchronizing with the microcontroller when I didn't want it to, because I was trying to emulate a bad USB cable, or not plugged into a computer. So this is really handy,
Okay. Next up,
useful cables.
Lady Ada's house of writing utensils, sort of.
Fluxin.
It's a flux pen.
It's a flux pen. And this is our first time carrying a flux pen. Now, people have been asking, why haven't you carried a flux pen before? The reason we haven't carried a flux pen is they often are not possible to ship via air. You have to ship them ground only, and it's a real pain. And I was like, look, I don't want to carry a flux pen.
Yep.
If basically by adding it to your order, we have to ship it ground. So this one does not have any shipment requirements. Now, it doesn't mean it's good for you. It's still flux. It's by definition corrosive. If it wasn't corrosive, it wouldn't be flux. So when you use the pen, and you use it by wiping, I can show it really briefly.
Yeah, let's go to the overhead.
When you use it, use ventilation, okay? Make sure you're super careful. So this is just my Metro demo. So you just you do the thing you do with markers where you press in.
Yeah.
And then it gets flux. It gets wet. I mean, it comes dry, but then now it's kind of damp.
It's getting fluxy up in here.
And then you just flux your connections. And especially if you're doing fine pitch surface mount stuff.
Yeah, handy.
This is very handy. I'm going to take this home because I definitely need this. Flux. Not good for eating or constant snorting. It's no clean. You don't have to do anything after you use it. So it's not as corrosive as water wash flux, but as a nice trade-off, you don't have to do any cleaning afterwards, which is, for most makers, is kind of challenging. We also have Chip Quick Flux in the liquid form with a syringe, but some people really like the pens. So I like having both. Chip Quick is really good at this stuff. They're reused by the maker market, a lot of rework and decapping things or removing chips. They're really good at that. So their flux is pretty nice, and we're gonna try this out. I'm digging it. It's a good flux, I think.
Okay. Next.
I don't use flux, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna start using flux.
Okay. Next up. This is super fun.
More cable.
We saw these at late one night, and we finally got samples. We looked at them, we liked them, so we got them.
This is actually, I was looking for the switch cables because that's what the thing we were looking for, but then I found this by accident because I was like just searching around for like weird ass cables. So this is a micro USB cable, and it's kind of like a cross between a micro USB cable and a charge adapter. It's a total USB cable, but the power line has a power monitor on it.
Where'd that charge doctor get his PhD? I've heard stories about charge doctor.
Charge adapter.
Where'd you get your medical degree?
So okay. So there's some good things about this and some like things that I just got to warn people about. The good thing is it works quite well. I like that the display is small. It's in the middle of the cable, not at the base of the cable, because often the base of the cable is plugged into the back of your computer or something you can't read it. This is in the middle, so it's like really easy to read. Actually, it's not even in the middle. It's actually kind of near the end, so it's near to the device, but it's not like in the way. Maybe I can show it on the overhead, because this is like, I'll show what I mean. Get the flux out of the way. So this is like the end of the cable, and then this is the monitor, and then you have like, about a meter of cable after that. So this is like, my Nexus 7, which of course like, is constantly dying. So it makes a really good thing for testing batteries. So you plug it in just like a normal cable, and you can use it for data or sync or both. You can use it with the switch extender if you don't want it. It'll tell you the voltage, and then it will tell you the current. So it was 5 volts, and now it's drawing 948 milliamps. So the good news is the milliamp display is really nice. I like that it gives you milliamps. It can go up to 2.5 amps. That's wonderful. The thing that makes me a little sad is it doesn't display the voltage again. So that's the trade-off. We have like a USB OLED monitor in the store and the charger doctor, and they show both. They show the voltage and the current. This one only shows the current. Kind of wish it showed both or like flip between the two, but this is kind of what I could get. If I could get a version that showed both, flipped between the two, I would, but this is all I could get. So that said, it does a really good job of showing you current. And for most things, if you're not concerned about voltage droop, this is fine. This is not only used for, testing chargers, but, your power boost. What, sorry?
I had a question.
Oh, yeah, what's your
What's
question?
the max current you think it can do?
2.5 amps.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's even written on the back. 2.5 amps. It has an over voltage protection. You can use it up to like 20 volts or something, but I don't know. I haven't really tested it. I'm using it for USB. You can use it for, your Raspberry Pi project. How much current does it draw? When you turn on or turn off HDMI, how much does it change? You can use it for your microcontroller project. I just like that it's inside the cable. I think that's kind of neat. Especially if you the charger doctors, they're at the USB port. I often kind of have to like lean over.
This is cool because you can
You can look at it really quickly.
Okay.
So other than the one thing of not showing the voltage, this is a really nice cable, and of all the samples, I like this the most. So that's why we have it.
All right. The stars of the show tonight, besides you, are these buttons.
These are pretty sweet buttons.
We got white, red, yellow, blue.
Okay.
Here are some of the
So these are
photos.
mini arcades, which is kind of interesting. We've had standard sized arcade buttons called 30 millimeter. These are 24 millimeter, so they're a little smaller and cuter. Thank you for showing me.
Yeah. I can go with the overhead
When you're
now.
ready, yeah. So this is one of the buttons. As you can tell, it is a little bit smaller. It's about 6 millimeters smaller in diameter. You use a 24 millimeter hole. This, unlike our other arcade buttons, it's a little deeper, and it has this, screw type connector, which makes it, I think, a little bit easier to use, and also it's a little bit less expensive. So it actually turns out to be about the same price as our larger buttons without LEDs, but again, they're a little thicker. And you've got the switches to switch contacts, and the switch is, it's not clicky, it's nice and soft.
Yeah.
I think it's a good feel. And then there's these 2 other contacts that inside go into a little LED PCB, and the PCB even has a resistor. So you've got red, yellow, blue, and white. We're gonna get green. For some reason, green didn't show up yet. But let me hook this up to my demo.
Like a connoisseur of buttons. You have it has a nice feel.
Hold on, sorry. I think that connector, that USB port doesn't work or something. I need to get my charger doctor.
Charge doctor.
Okay. Let me see.
Stat.
It's either this way or it's this way.
Patient needs
This
help.
is the way. You have to just, if it doesn't work the first way, just flip it around. This is just a PWM demo. There's 2 LEDs, so like you can kind of even see there's like one here and one there. It diffuses very well, though. You can barely tell. For the red and the yellow buttons, you do need to have 5 volts or higher. Because the 2 LEDs are in series. Again, I wish it kind of wasn't, but this is what I got. But give it 5 volts, and you've got nice buttons. You can, of course, control the LED completely separately from the button, or have it turn on, whatever you want with your controller. Our spade connectors work very nicely, so you can even do quick connects. So I don't even have any soldering involved here.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
fun.
have this connected to an Arduino. So this is red, nice glowy red, and then let me just switch this out for the yellow. Yellow. So yellow, nice soft yellow color. Again, 2 LEDs, so you do need to have 5 volt power for this. It won't light up at 3.3 volts. But then we have the blue, and I think for the red and the yellow, these draw about 5 milliamps total. And then for the blue, what's nice is actually the blue, they put the 2 LEDs in series. So you can actually drive this from 3.3 volts and it will work. It'll just be a little dimmer. So it's blue, nice blue color. And then of course, if you want to make them dimmer, just put an additional resistor in series with the power ground pin. So you don't have to have the brightness it has. It has a built-in, I think, 1K resistor inside. And then finally, translucent white. Okay, so nice
Yeah.
white color.
All right.
And you can kind of disassemble these a little bit if you want to paint the diffuser or put something in there. We'll have green as well, but right now we have just red, yellow, white,
the way.
and blue. But nice little arcade buttons, a really nice feel, good price, and of course built-in LEDs without having to do anything extra.
Yep.
And then they work as buttons, of course.
Good live demos, data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Swishy, swishy.
And with that, new products are over.
Woo! Woo!
Good work.
Okay, I got these back in the matching bags.
Okay, don't forget, if you want, you can pick up these things. 10% off in the Adafruit store all the way up till 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to do some top secret from the Adafruit Vault. Onto your screen. Top secret is here.
Okay,
And
what's the
introduced
secret?
to top secret is a short little video.
Okay.
All aboard! The Adafruit Learning Map. Where should we stop first tonight, Lady Ada? Well, I'm glad you asked. Maybe we'll take a ride to 555 Street, Drone Drive, or maybe we'll go to Capacitor Concourse, or the Pulse Width Modulator Place, or maybe Robot Route, or Ohm's Law Way, or perhaps Servo Station, or Conditional Court, or Variable Viaduct, or the Looping Line.
I like variable viaduct. There's always
Yeah.
viaduct in every metro system.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the top secret tonight is us talking about Metro.
Yeah, we have a new Metro Express coming out very soon. We're waiting for some parts, and we wanted to have our Feather M0 Express out for a little bit, but now we're ready to do the Metro Express. So it's going to be our Circuit Python friendly version of the Metro. You can use it with Arduino. You'll be able to use it with Circuit Python or MicroPython if you want. And also possibly with Make Code. We'll get Microsoft maybe to add this to their Make Code
Yeah.
system. So you
These
can
are the
use
boards. They're
drag and drop.
right
Yeah, this
here.
This is the first PCB set.
Yeah.
So we only got them up very recently, but we've been waiting to get all the parts, and we wanted to get everything super stabilized before we
Yeah.
launch into it. So we're going to be making these very soon, and
Yep.
so watch out for those maybe next week, maybe the week after.
Okay. And that is the secret stuff. Back in the vault, you. Secrets. Okay, let's answer some questions, Lady Ada.
Sure.
It's question time. Post your questions in the chat. Already got some lined up. Here we go. First one. Which board would be best for a tiny home automation?
A Feather would be good. An ESP8266 Feather would be great. You get Wi-Fi. Use it with Adafruit IO. Every home's got Wi-Fi in it.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Raspberry Pi
Raspberry Pi could also do it. It's a bigger project.
W0.
Yeah. Could do that too.
Yeah. Answered this question before, but answered again. How much current can that sort of charge doctor do?
2.5 amps.
Okay. Here we go. I'm a public school teacher working with some middle school kids on a project. Want to launch high altitude balloon. Could use some help with the Arduino code and Arduino sensors. Post up in the forums is the best place.
Yeah, that sounds like a big project. But a lot of people have built
Yep.
high altitude balloons, so you're in luck.
Do we have any code that would do sensor and data logging?
Tons of data logging code. Check out our data logging shield. We even have an example program for light and temperature. Get you started.
How would you fix broken camera connector on a Raspberry Pi Zero?
Tough. I don't know if you can.
It's a little hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd have to rework it, get a flux pen, remove the connector, replace it, but I don't know the part number of that connector.
Okay. Next up. I'm building my own filament extruder for recycling failed prints and saving money, but I'm stuck on how to measure the width of the extruded filament without touching hot filament.
Geez, I don't know. I
I'd
mean,
post up in the comments on Noam Pedro's 3D Hangouts.
yeah, or like post in a forum that has that does a lot with
Yeah.
really hot end hacking. I know. I mean, calipers are a little cold. Maybe you could use calipers, but I don't think they'd squish it too much. It's a challenge.
How can I connect a 7678 cam to an Orange Pi?
Dude, I have no idea. I've never even used an Orange Pi.
Okay. How's MOSFET? He's sleeping?
MOSFET's great.
alive.
He's super tired.
Okay. Got a VHF camcorder with a clamped out lead acid battery. Can replace it with a lithium battery. Excuse me.
You could probably replace a 6-volt lead acid with, a 7.2 volt camcorder battery. Just use a fuse and make sure it doesn't try to charge.
Yeah. They want to know, would you be able to use a boost converter or in a charge circuit? Drives me
Dude,
right now.
it really depends on the camcorder. You'd have to
Yeah.
look at the power supply of the camcorder, see what it's doing to it. I don't
Okay.
want to make any assumptions because if it's trying to do something with that lead acid and you have a lithium ion, you could blow up the battery. It'd be kind of a
Okay.
gross situation.
Any recommendations for IR sensors outside?
IR sensors outside, they don't work for quite well.
sunlight-
They're not
sunlight
really
problems.
good at it. That's why they're used for internal remote controls. For outside, recommend using something like LoRa radio or RFM radio. Radio is going to work way better outside. Inside, IR, it just needs to be a little darker for it not to get overwhelmed.
Someone says they already have a home automation project which they control the home lights by voice command, but it uses ESP8266. Could I start to sell a product with this module, or should I change it?
You could. I mean,
why
you
not?
could start, sell it, and then see how it goes, and then change as necessary.
ESP32 Feather in the works. Yeah, I think we should talk about this.
It's not out yet.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
ask.
not out yet. Okay. Lots of sirens. Oh no, work that goes into these streams. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into these shows.
Yes.
Thanks for noticing. Okay. RFM radio. People like that. Shout out for Feather. ESP32 Feather Express would be sweet. We agree. Next up, DIY foot pedal for transcription.
We have a DIY
a
foot
foot
pedal.
pedal.
We had a foot pedal in the store,
Yeah,
and it's just a switch. So if you have it hooked up to whatever
you can do that.
device that turns something on or off, pauses, we have a foot pedal to keyboard command demo. So
Okay.
you could have it like press pause on your computer. That could be something you could
Okay.
do.
Any recommendations for UV curable solder mask?
Don't have any.
Okay. Special PCB for BBC micro edge connector available.
We don't have one right now.
Desk of Gladiator this week. We're doing show and tell right now, or we did, and we have Ask an Engineer right now.
I'm here right now.
Yeah, we're here right now. Be with us.
I'm right here.
Okay. Can you recommend linear regulators, 1.8, 3.3 volt for Pi compute, or switching power regulators? Switching circuits are too complicated for me at the moment.
The LD1117 is probably fine.
Okay.
It's cheap. Can do 800 milliamps. It's
Could
like
use
50 cents.
The other mill to do artistic milling like small statues. Yeah, you could like build up layers. It's not a 3D thing, it's a subtractive process.
Yeah.
So you'd have to make layers. Mm-hmm. Okay. Solar charging feather wing.
That'd be cool.
Some people have used.
Really easy to type a suggestion, hard to actually do the engineering.
Yeah,
Takes time.
yeah. But we always listen. And we usually ship something really good eventually.
Whenever we ship, it's always the best.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, those are the questions tonight.
Yay.
Good work. That was a bunch.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, y'all. Okay. Well, Lady Ada,
Yeah, so giveaway.
it's time to give something away. What do you want to give away tonight?
We're going to give away one of those cables with the LCD in it. That's
Yeah.
pretty handy. Yeah, everyone can use one of those.
Yeah. All
It's a
right.
charger doctor cable.
We're calling this trivia, but it's not kind of.
I think it deserves it.
It's more kind of random. What are the rules?
Rules are the first person to call the payphone.
Yeah.
We're going to ask you your name, where you're
Yeah.
calling from.
Yeah.
Maybe say something nice or
Yeah. Say something nice.
or tell us what projects you're working on or something you want to work on. And then we'll tell you to email support. So
Yeah.
just be ready to...
You're ready to say your name,
name,
where you're from,
where you're from.
what you're working on.
Yeah.
That's a trivia question.
And only one winner for my lifetime, even if you
Yeah.
won before we did the phones.
Yeah.
Please don't call. Let everyone have a chance.
Okay.
You don't even have to answer trivia questions anymore. You
The
pretty
phone
much just
lines are
have to
open.
Call the number.
The phone lines are open.
It's right there. This is the phone number.
Yeah. See how this goes.
Oh, bring.
We have our first caller.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, you got your thing going.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hello, you've reached the desk of Lady Ada. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Oh, I'm calling from Canada. It's Dave.
Oh, hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
Hey, welcome.
How are you?
Sorry, did I say desk lady? I meant asking you. I do too many shows. Hi, Dave. Thank you for calling. You're the winner. You've won this fabulous LCD cable. It's so handy. Do you want to tell us what you're working on or maybe a message to the viewers?
Well, this is a fantastic forum. I watch it every week and almost every day. I kind of got addicted to watching your videos, actually.
Me too.
I'm working on a tiny home automation, actually.
Cool.
I was the person in the forum that asked that question about the ASP 8266 you suggested.
Okay. Well, guess what? It's your lucky day. I'm going to toss in a Feather 8266 as well. So you can get
Oh, wow.
both the
That's
cable
awesome.
and the Feather 8266. Huzzah. You're so set. All you have to do is email support@adafruit.com and just say, hey, it's Dave from Canada. They're going to know you because everybody knows Dave from Canada. And tell them that you won product number
The
3388.
last name is Paquette. I was actually, you played one of my messages.
Oh, cool. All right, you're like famous now. You're like a repeat customer. Yeah, just tell them you won the PID 3388 and also a Feather Huzzah. Just give them the link to the product. You know what I'm talking about, the Feather board. And they will get you one of each, and they will ship it to Canada. It'll be awesome. Maybe they'll even ship it DHL. You never know.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you for calling. Have a great evening. Bye, Dave from Canada.
Great to talk to you. Say hi to Phil and say hi to MOSFET.
Hi, Phil. Hi, MOSFET. We'll say hi to MOSFET tonight. All right.
Bye, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, that was
Long-time
fun.
watcher,
Yeah.
and one-time winner.
Yeah, that was great. Okay. If you didn't make it on the show, if you weren't the caller, if you weren't Dave, you can still use that number and leave us a nice message.
Leave a nice message.
Yeah.
And we'll play it. And then, because of the way the luck wave of the universe works, you'll probably end up being the first caller also. So you'll probably win something.
Yeah. Okay, lady. That's our show for tonight.
All right. We did a lot. We did
Go
our
tomorrow.
damage.
Yeah. Go tomorrow all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Help support us, an open source company. All these people. Thank you, everyone who's helping out in the show behind the scenes. Thank you, everybody who works here every day. Thank you, our community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to be here next week. We'll probably do some just a Lady Ada soon.
We need some cool hardware coming out real soon.
Yep.
I finished up Circuit Playground Express, ordered some PCBs today, so good things are happening. I'm taking on bigger projects, but I think it's all good. K-Town's working on some breakouts.
Yeah, we got a lot going on.
We have some NRF 52 tutorials being written,
Yeah. All right.
some other secret stuff.
I'm going to leave everyone with a picture of a cat, a moment of Zener, and I'm going to play one of my favorite clips from Edward R. Murrow, See It Now.
Okay. Bye.
Meow.
Meow.
Earlier, the senator asked, "Upon what meat does this our Caesar feed?" Had he looked 3 lines earlier in Shakespeare's Caesar, he would have found this line, which is not altogether inappropriate. "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves."